Welcome to the Elk Talk Podcast with Randy Newberg and Corey Jacobson. Presented by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
The goal is, what little you and I know about elk hunting, we share with people.
I've got an elk building, it's like 120 yards away. What do I do? First off, the thought would never cross my mind when an elk's being 120 yards away to call anybody on a cell phone.
All elk?
All the time? Only elk?
Only elk.
Well, it's us having conversations, so we usually go down some rabbit holes, but
If you hunt with Corey Jacobson, you will find the landscape is full of rabbit holes. We're just going to make this up as we go.
and you look at it like, oh, that's a target-rich environment. But if you're trying to single one out, a solo target there is much easier to go into than a big group.
We record everything, so there's no BSing, no lying, no faking it with us.
Did we hit the record
I
button?
thought I forgot to hit the record button. If you want to know something about elk hunting, this probably isn't the podcast to listen to. Should we give them a list of all the other podcasts where they might learn something? The Elk Talk Podcast is brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, ensuring the future of elk, other wildlife, their habitat, and our hunting heritage. To become a member, go to rmef.org.
The Elk Talk Podcast is also brought to you by Mountain Ops, making outdoor energy and performance nutrition to make you a stronger and healthier elk hunter. They have a full line of hunting-related supplements, including meal replacement shakes, multivitamins, pre-workout fuel, and post-workout recovery. And my favorite, their new performance protein bars that, by the way, are packed with 270 calories and 20 grams of protein, but contain less than 6 grams of sugar. Visit mountainops.com to learn more and to order, and be sure to use the promo code ELKTALK to save on your next order.
The Elk Talk Podcast is also brought to you by Go Hunt Maps. We've been using Go Hunt Maps since they started, providing them with our feedback and our ideas to add to their maps and their tools. So if you go to gohunt.com and sign up for their Explorer maps, you'll get all 50 states for the low price of $49. And by using promo code ELKTALK, they're going to give you $20 of credit in their gear shop that you can apply towards things you might want for this upcoming hunting season. GoHunt.com, Explorer Maps, promo code ELKTALK.
Lastly, the University of Elk Hunting online course is a proud partner of the Elk Talk Podcast. And within the University of Elk Hunting online course, you're going to find nearly 60 chapters organized in 17 modules of elk hunting instruction aimed at making you a more successful elk hunter. From planning and e-scouting to calling strategies and packing, every imaginable elk hunting topic is included in the online course. And regardless of your previous elk hunting experience or success, I'm confident the University of Elk Hunting online course will make you a more confident, more successful elk hunter. Just visit elk101.com and use the promo code ELKTALK to save 20% when you sign up for a membership to the University of Elk Hunting online course.
And with that, Corey, we are ready to get into it.
Let's jump into it.
Good morning, Corey.
Good morning, Randy.
How's life in Idaho?
Well, it's pretty good. We're above freezing. Well, we will be above freezing today, so that's always good. The snow, we got probably 8 inches of snow last night, so I've got some plowing to do after we get done recording here, but
No, we have diverted the jet stream where we're doing no more snow in Montana this year.
Oh, really?
So that atmospheric river they said that hit California and Nevada this week, that was because those of us in Montana used our planetary powers to push the jet stream away from us.
Nice.
Because we're tired of shoveling snow.
Yeah. And it's only the middle of January.
Yeah. And if we keep getting the amount of snow every month like we got in December, we aren't going to have any deer or elk left. So,
and I've been worried about that, but I went out and chased wolves here a couple days ago, and I was down where the deer and elk are wintering, and we don't have a ton of snow like in the winter grounds. It's there's definitely snow, but I would say there's really no more snow right now than there was this time last year.
Oh, great.
Down there. We've gotten a lot more snow, but we've also had some warmer weather that's melted it and actually had a few rainstorms. So I think they're going to be okay. From what I've seen, the deer and elk are looking good. And as long as we don't get that late freeze and heavy snow, I mean, obviously there's still 3 months of winter left, so a lot can happen, but it's that, early cold like we had, and then heavy snow where they can't get to feed. And then when you get the late stuff, that's when I start worrying. And right now, I think they're able to get to feed and things are looking okay still.
Cool. Well, we got rain here. It got 52 degrees and rain the week just between Christmas and New Year. It rained for 2 days, and it did really knock our snow down, especially on those south-facing slopes. The downside is it created such a high moisture content in the remaining snow that now that it's, it gets down in the teens every night, you could go and chisel ice cubes out of those snowbanks right now. So no elk and nothing scratching through that stuff. Where there is snow, they aren't getting through it. But,
and the other disadvantage I saw was it's the same thing here. The crust, I mean, it is a thick crust on top, and then you got a little bit of powder in between, and then solid ice on the ground layer. But those wolves are able to run right across that top of the frozen. And me and the elk, we step on that top layer of frozen, and we sink down the 2 feet into the powder below it, and it's a little slower going for us.
Yeah. Huh. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed, right? Because we're going to have to make a decision about Wyoming, by January 31st, what we're going to apply for. The good news is Wyoming, as long as you get your application in, they let you modify it until I think May 5th or something like that. So I always make sure I got my application in, and then I wait till in April, their job completion reports get done, which come out on their website. And then you can go in and modify your application. So, and they approve the quotas. So I go tweak that a little bit.
Just one of the benefits of allowing them to collect interest on our money for 5 months.
Oh boy. I posted another video this week on my YouTube channel that, again, has everybody's hair on fire. I've been throwing these ideas out there. Not that I'm saying you got to do it this way or that way. But I did one a couple weeks ago that was about, the changes coming in Wyoming and Colorado. And if you hold on to your points, you run the risk of, a huge amount of deflation to your points. Oh my gosh. Everyone's like, you're just saying that you're trying to get people to behave this way so you can go the other way. Like, no, I don't have any elk points. I burned my elk points in Wyoming last year. I'm strictly in the random draw, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yep.
Well, then this week I posted another video about just ideas for people to think about of, if everyone says we have point collectors, people just accumulating points, I threw out some ideas of, well, if you really want to change that, here's some ideas to think about. Oh my gosh. Now I'm in cahoots with this, and I'm trying to cut state budgets, and I'm like, no, I'm just throwing these out there. And there's only one of them that every comment so far people have agreed with. This one, and that is to adopt Colorado's system of point averaging, that the person with the lowest number of points is what the party gets. So that the dude who's buying,
grandma and grandpa,
points for 12 non-hunting people, every year he party apps with a different non-hunting person.
Yep. And
it would change that.
It would.
Well, it would be an interesting way to smoke out how many of those 80% of Wyoming elk applicants who don't even apply, they just buy another point. How many of them are non-hunters who are just like a placeholder for somebody who's doing party apps for them?
Yep.
So everybody thought that was a good idea. Either I did a bad job of explaining the other possibilities, or they're just bad ideas, which maybe they are. I'm not vested in any of them, and
Well,
one
I
of
think
them
you
was
just see how divided everyone is as far as if you have a bunch of points, you don't want to see this. If you don't have any points, you don't want to see that. And, it's
yeah.
hard. You aren't going to come up with a solution that's going to please everybody. That is for sure.
No. And I go through the math. I use Wyoming as an example. They sell an elk point for $50.
Yeah.
And they sell 150,000 elk points to non-residents every year. In fact, last year they sold 160,000. Well, if you multiply that 150 by $50, that's $7.5 million that goes to Wyoming Game and Fish for just the elk points. This doesn't count sheep and moose. It doesn't count deer or pronghorn. And it doesn't result in one extra non-resident tag being used to kill even one additional elk. So anyone who thinks that Wyoming is going to change that system, you're smoking crack.
Yeah.
That's $7.5 million of mad money for just one species in one state.
Yeah.
So I did the video to kind of get people to think about this of, all right, we want to complain about it. We don't like this. We don't like that. These systems aren't going away. Okay.
Yep.
So why do, on our podcast here and video content I produce, why do I spend a lot of time explaining the systems? Because they're not going away.
And they aren't going to get better.
No. Boy, I woke up, I turned on my Hunt Talk forum this morning, and whew, gosh.
Got some activity out there, huh?
I tell you what, you would have swore it was a Monday morning, not a Tuesday morning, as wound up as people are. And then I went, we posted the video yesterday afternoon when I logged on to the YouTube page just a little bit ago. There are already 70 some comments, and all right. So anyhow, that's a tangent to the fact that, folks, if you're listening and you want to apply in Wyoming, I suggest you not be sleeping between now and January 31st.
No kidding. First thing that crossed my mind is, what can you and I come up with that we can sell people for $50 and get 160,000 people to buy it? Like, that's, man.
Oh man, that if you can figure that out, Corey, we should franchise that.
Yeah, I just want people to comment. Let me know what they would be willing to buy from Randy and I for $50.
Yeah,
and we'll figure out how to get that in front of 160,000 people.
Yeah, I don't even.
Then we could do a podcast every week.
Yeah,
we could do an episode every week.
We could give away free elk hunts on every podcast.
Wow, now you're going. I don't know if you did the math on that or not, but that probably would work out.
It would. I did the quick math. 26 podcasts. Say each elk hunt costs $10,000. Well, that's only what, 260,000 of 7.5 million of revenue. Heck, let's give away five elk hunts on every podcast. And whoever comes up with the idea, we'll carve them in. We'll give them a 10% ownership interest in whatever enterprise.
Holy cow! Now you're talking.
Yeah,
you're not being an accountant today. You're being.
No, I'm a sales guy today.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I went down to the CPA firm last week. That was a mistake.
Oh man,
I'm not going back.
You've been telling them that for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's that time of year.
Yeah.
I wake up every morning. I go get my coffee. If the CPA firm is open, I swing by and I try to smile to make everybody happy. But, it's taxes. Taxes don't make a lot of people smile.
No.
So
on either end.
They're pretty. I'm surprised how happy they are down there, though. They're doing a good job. But anyhow, it was enough for me to get my taste of it. So I said, I'm going to go do podcasts with Corey and look at all these questions we got. We got a bunch more questions. So I'm going to throw this out there to you. Instead of going through each individual question, they're all about elk hunting.
That's good, because this is an elk podcast.
Yeah. Most of them are about archery elk hunting, I think if you take our audience, even though we've never done a profile of them, we have more listeners who archery hunt some or exclusively than we do who just rifle hunt, based on the questions. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, and I might I'm going to generalize here, but from my experience, I think archery hunters are, and this might upset some rifle hunters, and I don't mean to do that, but I think archery hunters typically invest more in education than rifle hunters do. I think a lot of rifle hunters rely on the fact that they're using a rifle and they can go out and find an elk and shoot it, and don't spend near as much time getting into the details as far as understanding elk behavior and calling tactics and things that when you're an archery hunter, there's a lot that goes into it. And I've just noticed that archery hunters seem to be more willing to invest in their education and in their learning.
I think that's very true. And I think also the fact that a lot of people get to elk hunting, they start out probably deer hunting. Yeah. And if you're a rifle deer hunter, there's an awful lot. Most of that transitions to rifle elk hunting. Archery deer hunting does not transition. I mean, you're not calling in a whitetail buck when you're archery hunting. Or you're not calling, maybe you are in a rare instance. But
usually on the ground, aggressively pursuing the animal.
Yeah, there's just a lot of stand, not sitting in a blind. So there's a lot less that transitions from archery hunting deer to archery hunting elk compared to how much transitions from rifle hunting deer to rifle hunting elk. So I would agree with your premise.
Yeah. And that's not, that's not a dig on rifle hunters at all. Yeah, it's just, hey, there's a lot bigger learning curve to be an archery elk hunter. And I think that archery elk hunters invest in that. And that's why I think that a lot of the questions we get seem to come from archery hunters is maybe rifle hunters don't have as many questions. There's not as many things to figure out.
Maybe. So rather than go through all these questions, and we'll probably get to a lot of these questions in later episodes, but we've been accumulating this big pile of them over in the folder in my Outlook. I wanted to, and this is, you've kind of resisted this. So folks, for the record, I'm kind of forcing Corey to do this. So he's been like, no, I don't know if that's the way to answer the da-da-da. So I threatened to throw my sucker in the dirt and go home today if he didn't humor me with this. So I want to go down the path, Corey. How did you start the University of Elk Hunting? Because a lot of these questions that we get, you and I email back and forth about them, and you're like, well, we cover that in Chapter 6, this part of the University of Elk Hunting. I would say most every question that we get in our discussions, you say, well, I cover that in the university, so I want to make sure that the answer we give on the podcast coincides with how I addressed it in the University of Elk Hunting. So, folks, if we do answer your question, a lot of times we're going to the Corey's scripts from, I don't know, or worksheets.
Going to the source.
Of Corey's University of Elk Hunting. And he pulls that up and we talk about it, and then we try to expand it or apply it to whatever the specific question is. Well, we end up doing that enough that I thought it would be cool for the audience to understand, how was it that you decided, I'm going to try build the University of Elk Hunting? Because I knew you while you were doing this, and it was no small undertaking.
Yeah. It really... To answer your question generally, I created it because of the exact same thing we're seeing here, all these questions. Mm-hmm. And I would go into a seminar, a 40-minute seminar with a 15-minute Q&A at the end of it. And in 40 minutes, I could share one little snippet of a portion of one category that goes into elk hunting, whether that is understanding elk behavior. And I could explain elk behavior, but then we couldn't get into how elk use their senses to influence their behavior, or what factors influence behavior. I could go into how to use elk calls, but I couldn't get into what sounds to make and all that. I mean, 40 minutes is just, you're just touching the tip of the iceberg. So then I'd get done and have 15 minutes for a Q&A, and there'd be some people that would say, how do I find an elk on September 10th? And it's like, well, that's not a real good question. That's what state are you in? There's so many things that go into that. But then I'd get somebody that would say, okay, you said that, you trigger an elk's fight or flight reaction based on the emotion in your call. So if you have an elk that's been pressured and, you're on public land and all these different factors, there's wolves there, how aggressive can you be before you push them off or whatever? And so those kinds of questions, they're very specific. And after doing seminars for 7 or 8 years, I started realizing there's just so much. You talk about a rabbit hole. You'd say, I'm going to get into archery elk hunting. And then you divert down into these 10 different directions. And then in each of these directions, each of these categories, whether it's gear or physical conditioning or understanding elk behavior, understanding elk in general, all these things that it's just, I sat down, before I even started, I sat down and I made a list of every single topic I could think of. And I started, very broad: gear, physical conditioning, elk behavior. And then I got into calling, using elk calls and all that. And then inside each of those categories, I started breaking down based on some of the specific questions I got. I had like 7 pages of one-line topics that went into that. And I thought, okay, I could break this out into categories and really go into detail here. And that's how the idea was born, were those 7 pages of notes of so many questions, so many topics. And I thought, if somebody really wants to, if they just want a general brief understanding, I can tell you, hey, the 7 categories that you need to focus on to improve your hunting success are this, 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 this. But really, the questions don't even start until you realize what those categories are. And so, my thought was, I'm going to create this, and it's probably going to take me a month or 2. I'll go through and I'll answer all this. We'll do some videos. Be cool to do some diagrams. When we talk about shot selection, and why is a broadside shot the best shot on an elk? Well, you have the biggest margin of error there. You can miss by 6 inches if you're aiming at the center of that kill zone and still have a very effective shot. So when you go to a quartering away shot, I've had bad luck with quartering away shots just because you're typically only hitting one lung. The arrow is typically hitting the offside shoulder, and the side that you enter on is quickly filled in with gut material or fat, and you don't get any blood there. So the elk's going to die for sure, but it's going to run. You aren't going to be able to track it. And then you get into the frontal shot and that whole debate. And so, I thought, man, a diagram showing like a 3D view of anatomy, the bone structure, the vascular, all the blood, the vessels, the veins, the arteries, everything would be really cool. And it honestly, when I set out, I thought 3 months max to go through, collect all of this. My wife still talks about the 9 months that I basically sequestered myself in front of the computer and sat down and just started writing. And it literally was 9 months of me working, 14, 15 hours a day, just sitting there. And I would get so into it. And, it was like, okay, well, what about this? And so I'd start typing, and then it's like, this is a whole nother chapter. So I'd make another, note there, add this chapter to this section. And that's, when you said, what it took and what's gone into it, it didn't start out that way. But once I went down that rabbit hole, I couldn't not complete it, and I couldn't leave it undetailed and incomplete.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, because knowing you and your personality, knowing the engineer, the competitive basketball player, when you said, yeah, I'm going to do kind of this overview to give people kind of the starting points, a part of me, as you were explaining that, my mind's drifting thinking, yeah, starting points, right? Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah. I didn't laugh out loud, but
yeah, you did
so
raise an eyebrow. I remember talking to you at one of the shows about it.
And so as we'd talk over, the course of that spring and summer, occasionally you'd explain to me how you were not getting any vitamin D because you've been locked indoors for months working on this. And but anyhow, you've always been pretty bashful about promoting it. I mean, you've had your platforms and your website and stuff that did, but I throw all that out there because I want people to understand that if you really are interested in becoming a student of elk hunting, and you want to commit the time to learn more, and you've always been quick to say, there's so much more than just what's in this course too. But I'm going to say that the course is really it gets to the core of all the important pieces, and then people, when they learn that and start to understand it, they can go apply it to their hunting style. They can apply it to hunting in Eastern Oregon versus hunting in Arizona versus hunting in the plains of Montana. It builds a knowledge set that gives you the ability to look at the problem and analyze it rather than trying to predict every single scenario that comes with elk hunting and giving you an answer to it.
Yeah.
Am I making sense without it?
I think my goal when I set out was not to answer the how in every situation, but to explain the why. And I think when you understand the why, you're able to apply it to a lot of different hows. You go out, and a lot of people, whether they're a first-time hunter, whether they've hunted for 10 years and never killed an elk, there's a lot of things they haven't experienced. And there's a lot of things they've experienced that they don't understand, because elk hunting doesn't happen nearly frequently enough. When you get to hunt 1 week a year, things are going to happen. And, I've been blessed to be able to hunt multiple weeks, the last 10 or 15 years throughout September, and recognize when things are happening, why they're happening. And that makes a huge difference when you sit there and say, I've got 6 days to hunt. How am I going to approach this hunt? How am I going to tackle it? And when you understand things, and probably the biggest thing that I've seen in comments and, people reaching out, emails, success stories, the biggest factor I think that contributes to what I've tried to do is people say, I went through the course, was overwhelmed. Holy cow, there was so much information. But then I went and hunted, and I came back and I reviewed the course again, and I learned so much, because things that I had just experienced, I was able to see, this is what you're talking about. Now I understand it. Now when I go back out there, this is going to be a part of my strategy, because I understand it, I know what to look for, and I know what to do when it happens. And there's so much of that goes into elk hunting. Just the learning curve is steep. It's long. You never reach the end of it. By no means am I saying I created a course with 66 chapters on elk hunting, so I know everything about it. I get my rear end handed to me just about every day that I'm elk hunting still. So there's that part of it. And then there are a lot of people who are every bit as successful as you or I as an elk hunter, and even more, way more. There's people that are way more successful than we are. I think a lot of people like to guard that success, and they like to guard the knowledge they've gained, because they don't want the competition. They don't want other people being successful, whether it is a pride thing, an ego thing, whatever it is. There are a lot of people that guard that. And for me, I want to see other people be successful. And, whether that's coaching a high school basketball team, whether that is, being with my kids and watching them do whatever path, whatever thing it is that they want to do, I love to see other people succeed. And there might be one or two people out there that I might not vocally, smile when they fail, but there are people that, that we don't see eye to eye on things. But for the most part, I love to see people succeed. And Will Primos said one time, if you teach somebody to love something, they're going to protect it. And I think that the more success you have as an elk hunter, the more love you're going to have, the more passion you're going to have, the more understanding you're going to have for elk, for their needs, and the more ability we're going to have to join together and protect that future. And that's ultimately, from the education side, from the success side, it's a big circle that I want to see continue. I don't want to see the passion for elk, and I don't want to see that fire go out.
Yeah. Wow. Another part of your background people may not know is you're passionate about teaching and sharing, which is why you coach basketball teams, why you do it. You may not see it that way, but I know you, and it's like in most parts of your life, you're teaching. You may not realize it, Corey, but you most of the things that take up your time have a lot of teaching elements to it. So,
and it's hard to convey. I think that's one of the things that I've been blessed with is through the engineering, through the passion, and all those things. I found that I've been able to explain things and help people understand things, which it can be hard. Even somebody that wants to share information, it can be really hard to convey that in a way that others are going to understand. And, I think my systematic, methodical, linear approach through being an engineer helps me break things down to the simplest form so that as they get complicated, we can start at the beginning and build, line upon line on that. So it is more digestible for an average person that hasn't maybe experienced it or hasn't had, a lot of years of experience in it.
Yeah. Well, I got an awful lot out of the course. I can tell you that. I still am a very unaccomplished archery elk hunter, but there's other reasons that contribute to that besides my lack of talent. But so you put the course up there, and now in the last 6 months or whatever it's been, 8 months, now the course has migrated over to outdoor class, which I did a rifle elk hunting module for outdoor class. You've done an elk. Did you do an elk calling module?
Yeah, so it was basically calling elk in the pre-rut and peak rut, I think is the name of the module.
So kind of the decision was made of why have two standalone platforms, two standalone subscription costs, and everything got moved over to outdoorclass.com. And now they get all of your university course. You spent in August, the amount of time you spent on that migration. There was no way I was calling you. I'm like, no, he probably wants to be out fishing or something, and then he's just stuck in a room.
It came right down almost into elk season, yeah. So,
really?
That wasn't going to happen, but so no, I mean, it goes back, and you and I have talked for several years, but when I created the University of Elk Hunting, the first thing I thought of was, what else can this apply to? What this platform does for elk hunters, can it do the same for deer hunters, for turkey hunters, for antelope hunters, for rifle elk hunters, and so you and I talked, I don't even know how many years ago, but it was like, hey, there's an opportunity here to create multiple online courses for different species with different experts in each field. I'm not going to be able to do an online course for whitetail deer hunting. I know how to hunt bears. I know how to hunt wolves, but am I an expert? I don't think so. There's other people that I would call and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? And so it worked out 2 years ago that we were able to take that approach and launch it through Outdoor Class. And then we're sitting here with Outdoor Class that has all these modules on different topics related to outdoors and hunting. And we still have the University of Elk Hunting, and we have 2 platforms. People have to sign up for both of them. And ultimately, we're like, hey, we wanted these all tied together. How do we make it happen? Yeah. And since Outdoor Class is 100% video based, like all of the modules in there are video based. You know, you can listen to them for sure, but there's no reading. You don't have to go to a website and scroll down a website. You can just watch a video. And the University of Elk Hunting is, I forget how many pages we had in there, 72 web pages. And there's reading, there's videos, there are diagrams. You know, it's a very visual based course, so it doesn't plug right into the Outdoor Class platform. So there was a lot we had to do to migrate that over. But once it was done, now people have access to all of those modules that are a part of Outdoor Class. So I don't even remember how long it was. It's long and it's in depth and it's 100% video based on calling elk in the pre-rut and peak rut. Yours is the post-rut and late season. Again, very detailed, 100% video based. They have access to all of that, plus the original format of the University of Elk Hunting, which is still in web page form. There's still the audiobook. You can listen to it. You know, there's the video components and all that. But Outdoor Class is a huge platform now with a lot of content on there, not just about elk hunting.
Yeah. Well, when you said when we got that migration done, I don't know who you mean when you say we, but I was pronghorn hunting in Nevada when we got that migration done. But no, we're, like you said, when we talked about this over the years, we had in mind a lot of people who really are truly experts in some things that I'm certainly not, and you said you weren't. And so we talked our buddy Remy Warren into doing mule deer. We talked Hank Shaw into doing cooking, Jamie Teagan into doing cooking. We got John Barklow working on survival and outdoor skills. That's going to come out pretty soon. So
working on
this idea
one, that I heard some rumblings about you working on another module, right?
Yeah, I'm reviewing it right now. I'm sure the editors they probably think I'm so far out to lunch. But accountants are detailed people. So, it's it's a pronghorn hunting course, and I love pronghorn hunting. I've been able to do so much of it, and that's part of what interferes with my archery elk hunting is the fact that I love pronghorn hunting too. So I went out and I searched the entire internet for anything that might have video content teaching pronghorn evolution, their skills, their why they do this, what is it about their physiology that causes them to behave the way they do or may have certain preferences, and then how do we capitalize on that for hunting. I couldn't find anything.
I bet.
There's what I call the Pronghorn Bible. It's Pronghorn Ecology, written by O'Gara and Yoakum, and it's 500 or 600 pages, and I've read that thing so many times. And so anyhow, I'm reviewing that course right now. We thought we'd have it ready to launch the end of January, but I think it's going to be early to mid-February. And it covers archery hunting, rifle hunting. It's not as pronghorn hunting is a lot easier than elk hunting, right? You're not calling them in. They're not as attentive to the sense of smell as elk are. There's certain ways you can trick their vision, or at least there are certain times of the day or certain ways you can make it it's still going to be their advantage, but you can make it less so. So I think we got 12 chapters in that first pronghorn course. It's ready to come out here in a month or so. But the point of all that is that we're kind of doing what we talked about when we kind of hatched the idea however many years ago, and we got a bunch more people lined up. But for the sake of our audience of the Elk Talk podcast, I wanted them to know that sometimes if we don't get to your question, Corey's never been the guy who would reply to you and say, well, I cover this in the Elk, University of Elk Hunting. That's just not Corey. Even though I want to say, hey, thanks for your question, Corey's too modest to tell you to go and look for it in the University of Elk Hunting.
And I just, I've never been a salesman as far as a hard sale. I absolutely, I've been able to make a living in the hunting industry for several years now. So there's a financial component there for sure. But I don't want people to go and buy it unless they really, I don't want them to sign up for membership unless they really want to dive into it and they're going to find value. So somebody that asks one question, you can tell from somebody's question whether they are interested in learning or whether they just want an easy, quick answer to go and find an easy solution. Yeah. And it is hard. I don't ever want to push somebody away from asking a question by saying, well, you have to sign up and pay money if you want to get an answer to that. That's never been my platform. And that's why we do a podcast for free every week, is we try to share that information. But for those who are interested in taking a deep dive, and there's no marketing in it, when you get in there, start reading it, I'm not trying to sell a product in there. So there's no, strategies and tactics aren't based around a product. And you look at so many things for so many years. When somebody is trying to sell something, they've got to come out with a platform to sell that on. And we're so gun shy as hunters to somebody's trying to, they're giving away this information and wait for the sales pitch at the end. And I don't ever want it to lead to that or to be that guy. But at the end of the day, there's nothing in there that I left out. There's a lot of things that I don't know, and I didn't put those in there. But if there's anything I've learned, any knowledge I've gained, any experiences I've had in elk hunting, I put all of that in there. And I tried to share just about every elk hunting story I could think of in there as well to illustrate some of the examples. So there's a lot of elk hunting stories from back in the 90s when I was cutting my teeth on success. That I share in there to talk about persistence, to talk about, learning to use the wind to your advantage. And people always think, well, the thermals we can't control them. And absolutely we can't. But like you said with antelope's eyes are incredible, but there are things you can do to limit the effectiveness of their eyes and to gain an advantage over their vision. Elk are the same. Their noses will never beat their nose, but there's a lot of things we can do in how we approach that elk that's going to limit its ability to utilize its senses to detect danger. And so, all of these things that it really was a labor of love. There was a lot of work that went into it. But by the time I got done, I realized how much I love elk hunting and how blessed we are to be able to go elk hunting. And if anything, it stirred that flame and that passion that I have for it. And it gave me a resource to be able to share with other people to hopefully increase their passion as well.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the questions we get, some of them are very general. Like you said, where can I kill an elk on September 10th? We get that someone's interested in elk hunting, and that's great. But if it's that generic, there's so many variables that we're not going to spend an hour podcast addressing all those variables.
Yeah.
But now, if it's like the question I just pulled up here, a person goes into a really, really good exercise or explanation of the scenario. They're at a base camp. They're hiking uphill every day. The elk, for whatever reason, seem to be most active in that first 2 hours of their day. They're unfortunately getting really sweaty, and they're using the downhill thermal for them to get to where the elk are, but then everything kind of goes to heck on them. They get to the elevation of the elk. It's the time of day when the thermals can't make up their mind what they're going to do. This person provided so much context to what their scenario is. You can tell they've really put a lot of thought into this. They're really trying to learn, or if nothing else, maybe they're just asking out loud some things they probably already know. But in that question,
And what was their question?
Their question is, how do I handle this now? I'm close to the elk. What do I do? I've got the changing thermals, and Corey usually says in his course, stay at their elevation. Don't necessarily get above them. Don't necessarily get below them. Obviously, keep good track of what that thermal's doing, because if you're in the shade, the thermal's going one way. If you're in the sun, the thermal's going the other way. Going through your course, it kind of prepares you for how to address that scenario, even as specific as that person asked the question, and it's very specific to their situation in Colorado. The course and the way that you teach things kind of leads them to what are some answers and some possibilities.
I mean, for that specific one, there's a video in the course that shows somebody leaving a base camp in the morning, hiking up the mountain, the thermals, there's little flashing arrows showing the direction of the thermals at different times. You get up on the level of the elk as the thermals switch and they move up. So, it shows you need to be on a ridge adjacent to them, not on the same ridge as them. I mean, all these little things that, I've made every mistake you can think of. I went up the ridge below the elk, follow them to their bedding areas, got there, got set up, and then the wind switched, and I'm right below them. I've got above them too early, and walked over that ridge. I'm above them. The thermals are coming up right here on this open ridge. I step over on the north side where they bed, and the thermals switch and start going back down the hill, and they smell me and bust out of there. So all these situations, I've had to come up with, generally, how do I overcome that? I don't just hunt Idaho every year on the same ridge, so I can't just go into it and say, I know what the thermals are doing right here on a sunny day. I know what time they're going to switch. I know what happens when cloud cover comes over. I go to different areas I've never been to, and so I have to have a really good understanding of the general rule of what's going on so I can apply it specifically on the fly in different situations and scenarios. And so, like you said, getting on the same level, that really levels the playing field of an elk's nose. I mean, it does. They want to be above you or below you. That's why when they come into a setup, they're circling above you or below you, because they want to get that advantage and use their nose to see if there's any danger. They don't sit there and think, okay, I need to make sure I circle uphill of this because the thermals are coming uphill. It's instinct. It's natural. They know that, and they do it naturally. And if they don't do it, it's because there's something wrong in the brain with them, like all they're thinking about is breeding right now, and there's a cow over there. So I'm running straight in there, and instincts, take a back seat to the bigger instinct that's happening right then. So, like you said, those specific types of questions, I've really tried to, not only explain it, but create a diagram, because I think for us, it's easier to look at a video of somebody, a silhouette walking up the mountain towards these elk, seeing what the thermals are doing, and then understanding if you get over here, they're going to smell you if the wind changes. If you get over here, you're going to be too, all these things I've tried to account for and make it so that people can understand it and apply it over and over in lots of different situations.
Yeah. And I use that example because that's the kind of question we'd probably grab out of the big pile of questions we get.
Yeah.
If you go to elktalkpodcast.com and there's a contact us or leave comment or something like, those are the ones that we're probably going to answer because someone's really put a lot of thought into it. It allows us a more specific context and setting, so we can address how each of these points are brought up. Okay, this is why this factors in. This is how that factors in. So that's a little bit of a, I guess, explanation to some people who will send us the same question 3 weeks in a row. Like, why haven't you answered my question? And we don't want to discourage anyone from going out and being elk hunters, but also we feel that the audience gets more out of the question if we can be more precise in the scenario to set up the situation, and whether it's archery, whether it's rifle, whether it's whatever. I just threw that one out there because it kind of walks us through that process of you saying, well, here's how I address it in the University of Elk Hunting. And I'm like, okay, So,
Well, and speaking to that, the general questions, we get so many people that, the email comes in, I'm going on my first elk hunt next year, and this might be my only shot to go. Where should I be looking for the best chance of success? Or I'm hunting Colorado, I've made up my mind there, but I'm overwhelmed by all the units. So can you just tell me what unit I should be hunting in?
right.
Those sort of things, we can't answer that. There's so much else that goes into it, not to mention we'd be doing a disservice to the people who are already hunting that area. We'd be doing a disservice to the person asking the question, because what they're wanting is the easy. They want the easy route. They don't want to have to do the legwork, the homework. And there's a huge learning curve just understanding what to look for in selecting an area. All of those things. Our goal is to provide the information that allows people to do that research. We don't want to throw them out blindly and say, go to this platform and do your research here. We want to walk them through how we do our research, how we find those areas, so they don't have to ask those generic questions that we can't answer. Yeah. But when somebody comes and has a question, like, we get the question, you talk about thermals going down in the morning and up during the day. So when I'm setting a camp, if I want to bivvy back in somewhere and set up a camp, where should I be setting that? How close to the elk should I get? I know I need to be above them during the day. I know I need to be below them during the, nighttime. Where should I be? Should I be at the same level of them? Should I be a mile away? Should I be on the ridge above them? Should I be in the valley below them? Those sort of things I get excited about, because I'm like, okay, here's what we need to do. Here are the details. When somebody says, what road should I go up and put my camp on? I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to tell you what road to go and hunt on. It just, hopefully people understand that Randy and I can't answer those general questions. We can't steer you into a specific area. We can give you all the tools that you need to find your specific area, but we just can't take that shortcut for you.
No, and so much of that is specific to your preferred hunting style.
Yep.
If you have 10 hunters, there's going to be 10 different preferences, tweaks, derivatives of hunting styles. And my hunting style is what I like to do, what really intrigues me, what I get great satisfaction in, is it might be hunting a completely different way than someone else does. And there's certain landscapes that lend themselves to my hunting style that would be like 0 on the list for some other hunting style. And that other hunting style might have a landscape that, hey, this is a great place to employ my hunting style that I like. And it would be a terrible place for me to show up and try to overlay my hunting methods and styles and the way I approach it. So there's so many things related to that. And that's why once I start narrowing down units, it's not, it's got to be the highest bull to cow ratio. It's got to be the highest harvest success. For me, it's, all right, here's a handful of them. Get on my map. All right, here's what looks like lays out well for the way I hunt.
Yep.
And that ends up putting units higher up the priority list for me than they would somebody else. So that's back to your point of trying to show people the process you go through to get to your answer is more important than giving an answer.
Yep. But understanding the why, not just asking for the how.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. And I've got it's that time of year. I'm trying to plan out my fall right now. And a couple of years ago, I was locked into a area in Idaho that I've hunted for 20 years. And it's a good area. But it's tough hunting. I mean, unless you know specific areas, you could spend all week here and not see a track or hear a bugle. And I finally realized, hey, I should take my own advice. Instead of just going with what's easy and comfortable, maybe there's something that's better, that's going to give me a better experience. So I broke down every unit, not every zone, every unit in Idaho. And there's 70 some, general units in Idaho. I broke them down by, I got the statistics for bull to cow ratio, for success rates, for number of hunters in each unit. Again, not an overall look at the zone, because there are some zones that have 4 units, And there might be one unit in there that only gets 60 hunters during archery season, but the zone as a whole gets 2,000. And so, and I mean, this is not 100% accurate information. It's based on surveys and everything, but it gives you a general idea of what to expect from pressure. So I looked at all of these different things. I looked at trends in success rates, in the percentage of 6-point bulls shot in each unit. And from there, I have a spreadsheet that lists all that. Then I can go through and assign priority rankings on those things. So for instance, success rate. If it is under 10%, it gets, a 0. If it's 10 to 15%, it gets a 1. If it's 15 to 20, it gets a 2. If it's 20 and above, it gets a 3. Yeah. So I can go through each of those different factors, assign numbers, and then compute a final score for each unit in Idaho based on all of that prioritization, and it'll spit out top unit, second unit, third unit, fourth unit. Then I can look at each of those units and dig into, the specifics of it. But I did that, and like you said, I'm not going to pick the unit that has the highest bull to cow ratio, that has the highest success, has the highest number of 6 points, because there's usually a lot of give and take in there. You pick the unit that has the highest number of 6 points, the bull to cow ratio might be really low. The overall population or the objective population might be under objective. And so you've got to look at all of those together collectively. So I did that. I picked a unit, and we went there 2 years ago, and it was incredible. We had a great hunt, way better than what I've been experiencing in the other units that I've been hunting. So what I'm saying is, I did all that research, and then I gave that same spreadsheet to a friend. He's like, what unit would you suggest? I'm like, I'm not going to suggest unit, but I'll give you the spreadsheet I used to pick the unit, and you can put in what's most important for you. He came up with a completely different unit in clear across the state, completely different part of the state. And he's like, this looks phenomenal. I'm going to hunt this unit. And look at the score that it gave me on the spreadsheet here. And I could have gave him, this is one I came up with. We hunt very similar. You should go hunt this unit. But instead, he looked at it from his perspective and was able to determine this unit actually matches what I'm looking for. And it's not saying it's better or worse. It just, he didn't do the legwork. I did all the legwork in the spreadsheet. He just simply plugged in the factors into the spreadsheet that were important to him and came up with a completely different area to go and hunt.
He must be a really good friend.
He is.
Okay.
Not good enough that I tell him what unit I'm going to hunt or give him that information, but that spreadsheet is pretty valuable to me.
Does he mow your lawn in the summer, wash your vehicles,
no.
Cut your firewood?
No.
Well, you never offered me that spreadsheet.
I know.
But that's all right.
You didn't ask either, though.
Oh, I know. I got more respect for all your hard work than to ask. But before we get on to the next thing, I want to make sure that this is the sales pitch part of it. And I told Corey I wouldn't ask him to make the pitch, but, we've talked about the University of Elk Hunting and Outdoor Class and how they're all now one piece. If you go to outdoorclass.com, that's where it's all located. And if you do use Elk Talk Podcast, what do they get, a 20% discount, I think?
Yeah, $20 off. So it's $99 for a year membership. Yep. And in that, you get access to the University of Elk Hunting in its complete form, but you also get 100% access to every other module. So, your pronghorn one that's coming out, the survival one by Barclow, the existing mule deer, late season rifle, the peak rut calling elk, everything, you get that for $99 plus if you use that promo code Elk Talk. It's just Elk Talk, right? Not Elk Talk. It's just Elk Talk.
I think so.
Yep. No space.
That's how bad as salespeople we are, Corey. We can't even remember what our promo code is.
Well, we try to keep them all the same, and that should help us. But
I hope so. And we're trying to get, we want the audience to save some money too.
Yep. So $79, you're able to sign up for that, get unlimited access to it for the entire year. So it's not like you go through it once and it disappears. You can go back to it over and over. My daughter drove my truck last week. Hers is getting fixed, and she came home last night and said, I want my truck back. It took me $130 to fill your truck with gas. So we're looking half a tank of gas to get all of this knowledge that, you go out and spend $80 in gas just driving to your hunting unit. If you live right next to your hunting unit to do a quick scouting trip, you could spend that $80 and gain so much more knowledge than one scouting trip's going to provide you from all of those resources at your fingertips.
Well, man, you almost took the sales pitch away from me there, Corey. I promised you. I said, Mr. Humble Humility, I'm not going to ask you to make a sales pitch when we talk about this, because it's more about the story of how you did it. So, and look at you. We almost got you to make a sales pitch.
Listen, $80 is a lot of money. I'm not discounting that, but we're pumping that into our truck so frequently that, hey, stop, invest in yourself. And that's knowledge. Right. Your bow's you're gonna have to upgrade your bow. You're gonna wear out a pair of boots. All those things are gonna have to be replaced. You invest in the knowledge one time and it stays with you, and you get to improve on it and grow it. And I think that investment is so much more exponential than anything else you can do.
Yeah. And like John Barclow says, knowledge weighs nothing.
Yep.
I told him, I'm like, John, I'm going to steal that from you. Anytime someone's like, oh, yeah, this is 2 ounces less, I'll be like, yeah, but knowledge weighs nothing. So anyhow, let's shift gears for a little bit here. This podcast, I think, is going to drop on January 16th, if all goes well. If our editor, Joe, can get to it. I hope he will if I get it to him today. January 17th, Destination Elk version 5?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
V5.
Coming out on your YouTube channel?
It does, yeah. When you said, I think this podcast is going to drop on January 16th, I've been thinking, I sure hope I don't drop before January 16th, because we're in the heat of editing and reviewing and trying to get all the pieces in place. There's just so much that you don't think about until you get into that final week, and it's like, oh, we've got to have a thumbnail. We've got to create all of these assets and images that we can use for thumbnails on YouTube, for social media, for emails. Oh, speaking of emails, I've got to come up with the copy to put in the emails. So we're in that busy work right now, and John is cranking away on editing episodes. But Tuesday, January 17th, we kick off Destination Elk V5 on Elk 101's YouTube channel. And that is our, it used to be day by day. Now it is by day. Each episode follows 4 different teams this year in a morning hunt. And then the next episode will be the evening hunt of that same day. And then, episode 3 is the morning of day 2. So you basically get to follow along in a half a day of each of these 4 teams throughout their 8 days of hunting. And so, you're going to see days where we didn't even hear a peep from an elk. We didn't even see an elk. We sit around during the middle of the day, bored out of our minds because it's too hot to do anything. But then you jump to, somebody hunting the coastal range in Oregon, and they're into screaming bulls. And so it's been a really fun format. It's a ton of work to try to bring all that content in and create episodes from different cameramen and different areas of hunting and different filming styles and everything. But the end product is pretty cool.
Cool. Well, who all you got? You got you and Donnie.
Yep. Donnie and I are Team Elk 101. And then we have Team Skousen. So Mark and Jeff Skousen, they're the twins from Utah that they've been, I think this is their 4th season on Destination Elk. We've got Team Pure Elevation. So Tyler Crockett and Lenny Nelson. They're here in Idaho. They're just gluttons for punishment. They hunt some of
those guys. I watched that. I'm like, Lenny, I don't know, man. I think that rodeo stuff did something to you.
It did. They've landed on their head way too many times. And they're both bull riders, ex-bull riders. And so they don't know pain. Like there is no pain threshold for them that makes them turn around and go back. And then we've got Team Angry Spike, who Corey and Shannon over on the Oregon coast, hunting Roosevelt's. So those 4 teams, our sponsors we've got. So a lot of things we did last year. We did the team format last year, but we went away from some of the other features we'd had in previous seasons, and people really missed those. So we're doing the team format again, plus we're adding back in those features, one of which is the recap at the end, where Donnie and I just sit and talk about some of the things, just recap the hunts, but then we mix in strategies and tactics that, a little more detail, that we're able to really explain what we did, what we saw, how we reacted. The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation sponsors what we call our strategy for success. So in each episode, we talk about a strategy that either contributed to success or that we should have used, and because we didn't use it, we weren't successful. Donnie's got plenty of dad jokes. We're making sure there's dad jokes in every episode. And then the other thing is our big giveaways. We're doing a big giveaway package in each episode. So when people watch it on YouTube, all they have to do is make a comment there on YouTube, and that's their entry to wins. And it's a huge package this year. We've got Peaks as one of our sponsors. We've got headlamps and trekking poles and gaiters and all sorts of good stuff from them. Mountain Ops, $100 gift card, and a tub of the limited edition Bull Rush Ignite, which is only available in September, but that's part of the package. Yeti's got some custom Destination Elk product in there. And then the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has contributed a membership, annual membership, and then some apparel and swag. So every episode, somebody's going to win that. But then the really cool thing is Peaks, who you and I we've had Bryce on the podcast before. Right. They are doing a lifetime giveaway, which, it's so basically every product that they have available right now, the winner of this lifetime giveaway is going to get one of each of those products. But the cool part is, for the rest of their life, when Peaks comes out with a new product, they're going to send this person that new product as well. So, they're coming out with the TPs coming out here soon. A lot of cool stuff on the horizon that the winner of that's going to get. And they created a really cool custom one-time T-shirt design to commemorate the launch of Destination Elk. And that T-shirt is going to be the ticket to get entered to win that big giveaway. So a lot of cool stuff going on there. But at the end of the day, we're just excited to share our elk hunts from last fall.
That'll be on the Elk 101 YouTube channel.
Yep. So on YouTube, just search Elk 101. You can subscribe to it and then click that little notification bell. Then you get a notification when the new episodes are dropped. But there'll be 2 episodes every week starting on January 17th. They'll be launching every Tuesday and Thursday through March 14th, 21st, somewhere in there. So a little over 2 months of elk hunting content to absorb in the off season here.
Cool. Wow. You sent me a text the other day, and I almost didn't want to answer it. Did you notice how much trepidation I had when I answered it?
You did? And did you notice that I didn't provide you any detail?
I know. So the first question is, where is it? I'm going to pull it up here. It's something like, what are you doing in September? Well, I'm hunting now. What do you think I'm doing? Where is it? Here. Let me see. What are your plans for September as of right now? I'm like, not sure at this time. What you thinking? I'm thinking sometime in early September. I'm like, what state? And you say a state, and I'm like, wow, you're optimistic. And then you say, if you are optimistic that you will be available that first week of September, I'll double down on my optimism. And I'm like, well, given that, okay, I'm open in September. Can we do spot and stock? And you say, no, insane bugling action. And then the discussion ends. Yeah. So I still don't know what the heck you have in mind for September of next year. But hopefully when we hang up, you'll tell me.
Yeah, probably not. I'll probably tell the audience before I tell you.
Probably. Oh, okay. Well, I will be in Kentucky the first week of October, so
Okay.
I got to take a sweepstakes winner there.
Yeah.
But other than that, right now my calendar is pretty wide open. So
Cool. Well, we'll hash out more details as the season progresses here. But knowing that you're available, you and I haven't actually hunted elk together since, was it New Mexico in 17?
16, that was New Mexico.
Was that 16?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, but
Was
you
that the
came
last-
to Montana. You came to Montana on a rifle hunt in 2019.
Yeah, but we didn't get to hunt together other than
Oh, no,
one more, and we camped together. But
We shared camp. But,
yeah.
So
I got
Well-
a big kick out of seeing the look on your face when I called in that bull in New Mexico that came by at 20 yards or 25 yards or whatever, and you didn't get a shot at it. And that was. I'm thinking we need a hunting experience together, an adventure like that. And I know you don't want to go to Alaska or anything, so I'm keeping that in mind. But I'm trying to plan something where we can spend some time together chasing elk during the rut.
All right. Llamas or no llamas?
I don't think we'll need llamas.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've been working out all winter here.
I just started. I might regret saying that, but
yeah. Well, when I got your text, I jumped up, went and got my workout shoes on, and Kim is like, what are you doing? You going downstairs work out? I'm like, yeah. Just got a text from Corey. He wants to go elk hunting this year. I better get off my butt and quit eating donuts. So that was good for my inspiration to get rid of some Christmas fat. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I kind of fell off the no sugar wagon over the holidays and felt it. Like it you feel it when you've been, and I won't say I'm sugar free, but I definitely have tried watching how much sugar and the kinds of sugar. And then over the break, you just get all these treats and different things, and you kind of, it's a big temptation for me. And then I started waking up in the morning going, man, my stomach hurts. Man, I feel tired and sluggish. And it took a little bit to clean that out of the system and get back at it.
You're a man of high standards, Corey. I admire you.
I don't know about that.
Well, I had my nieces in town skiing. They were out here from Minnesota. And they're like, Uncle Randy, I mean, can we spend a week with you without getting some ice cream? So, like, well, no, I guess we can't. So I fell off the wagon. So, but that's all right. I fell right into the Dairy Queen wagon when I fell off the no sugar.
As long as you're parked next to a Dairy Queen, it's okay to fall off a wagon.
Well, I'm gonna let you go. I hope the audience got some value out of this. And if you would, please send your questions, because we'd love, even though we kind of made this a podcast of how we approach answering the questions and, the range of questions we get, we love them. It gives us a lot of feel for what people are thinking, what challenges they see. How does that line up with some of the things that we're thinking, or the frustrations or struggles we've created for ourselves? So please do that. Go to elktalkpodcast.com. Yep. Is that it, Corey?
Yep.
I always got to ask Corey, because he's the one who built the website, or one of his friends built the website.
I just have the login credentials for it now. So
okay.
elktalkpodcast.com. Click on the contact link and send us an email. And like Randy said, keep sending the questions, because a lot of our podcasts are based off of those questions. And without the questions, Randy and I can come up with any topic in the world we can think of, but we might not touch on what 90% of the listeners want to hear about. So send us that. There's a really good chance that if you have a question or there's a topic you want to hear about, there's a lot of other people that have the same question or could benefit from hearing the answer to it. So keep those coming. Don't ask us where to hunt. And outside that, any
Everything's
topic
fair game.
related to elk hunting's fair game. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't forget, January 31st, do your Wyoming application well before that. Don't be one of those last minute people. And I think Arizona this year is February 5th or something
It's
like
coming
that.
up, yeah.
Anyhow, do Arizona before February 1st also, and then you won't miss that one either. And if you want to explore Corey's University of Elk Hunting and all the other folks who have contributed content to Outdoor Class, go to outdoorclass.com, use promo code Elk Talk, and save yourself some money on that subscription. So,
Yeah,
we got it covered, Corey?
I think we're good. Yeah. I'm excited for Destination Elk to kick off. It's a big project and a long project, and we're in the final stretch here, and it's going to be fun I love going through and just reading the comments. We read every single comment. Obviously, that's the entry for the giveaways, but it's amazing to me to go to other people's YouTube channels and see the negativity on there. Yeah. And then it's so refreshing to go to ours during Destination Elk and just see all these elk hunters coming together with the same passion, and there's just very, very little negativity.
Well, thanks for doing that. And I know you're close to the end. I know you've built a few houses before. It must feel like when you're getting ready to finally wrap up a house you built, huh?
It does, yeah. So much work that goes into it, and your head down, and then you turn around. It's like, man, the carpet's in, and I'm handing the keys to somebody.
Yeah. Well, go to the Elk 101 YouTube channel, subscribe, follow along, and that will be like it is every year. That's some amazing elk content. It's entertaining, but it also has a lot of good information in there. So,
yep.
All right, Corey.
Okay.
You have a great day.
You do the same.
I'm going to go see if I can do something constructive here. Probably not, but I'll try.
Awesome. Right. Thanks, Randy, and thanks for listening, everyone.